Hey, what's up? This is Zach Schieffer, and I've helped several handfuls of D2C brands add 50 to 200K in new monthly revenue over the past few years. And before my team starts working with anyone, we need to do an email marketing audit to understand exactly where improvements can be made. So let's dive into that. So we're going to talk about our 242-point audit that we go through with every D2C e-commerce brand that we talk to. And here are the basics. So integration settings, you want to know, is Shopify or your other CMS integrated with Klaviyo properly, and is everything working as expected? Should be pretty simple. Should be some, just a button to click. That's about it. You also want to make sure all the metrics are set up and firing correctly. Some of these, like checkout started, are already there out the box, but added to carts, you're going to have to set that up. Things like viewed products, active on sites, some of those you're going to have to set up on your own. So you want to make sure that these are properly set up. Also, are people added to the newsletter list correctly? If no, you're going to have to check your pop-up, whether it's in Klaviyo, make sure that's going to the right list, or if it's Attentive, PostScript, Amped, Just Uno, or something similar. You want to make sure that software is sending people over in a proper manner. Now we're going to look at business basics, so it really helps to get an understanding of things outside of email marketing specifically, such as AOV, how many orders are being returned on average as a percentage, customer lifetime value, conversion rate of the store, and returning customer rate. All of these are really going to help you, because if they have a very low online store conversion rate, that means that every time you send an email, it's going to be a lot more of an uphill battle. Same thing with returning customer rate. If they have a great returning customer rate, that tells you more about their audience. It means that there's not as many new people coming in. Same with customer lifetime value. It's really helpful to use different Shopify apps like Lifetimely and Klaviyo CDP, different types of software to find this out. Okay, in terms of revenue metrics, you want to look at, biggest one is what percentage of overall revenue is coming from email and SMS. That's not always the most important metric. Sometimes it could be low, sometimes it could be high, but generally we like to aim for about 30 to 33% of overall revenue coming from email and SMS. But again, it's not possible to do that with every single brand. I could get way more into the weeds on that, but you want to look at how much extra revenue could they be making if we were able to increase it from, wherever they're at to 20, 30, maybe 35%. We have a little calculator here that actually does that specifically, and you want to also look at the revenue split between campaigns versus flows, because that tells you where the opportunities are and where it might make sense to double down. If they are sending a ton of campaigns and they're super optimized and it's still only a very small percentage of their overall revenue, it might be worth it to just double down on flows and understand that campaigns are gonna be an uphill battle, and it's more worth it to double down on the flows. Reporting and A/B tests, you want to make sure that results are consistently being checked and improved upon in flows, campaigns, and sign-up forms. And you want to make sure everything's well documented. We want to improve over time, and that's why split testing documentation is so important. For us, we have an entire Airtable base that we record every single split test that we run, and we every week review it and act upon it and improve it over time, because just split testing in itself is not actually going to do anything. You have to actually implement the split test changes and gather those insights. All right, Klaviyo settings. Quick check here. We want to go through the account. We want to turn on this setting, determine campaign recipients at send time, especially if you're sending to engaged segments. If you 2 weeks out schedule an email, it's going to miss those people who are just added to that engagement segment if you don't have this on. Make sure single opt-in is on unless there's a specific issue with spam bots signing up. That's going to help maximize your list growth. You want to turn on email to website tracking. Billing here, it's very, very easy to overpay for Klaviyo, so make sure you're not paying for additional profiles here. Typically in the profiles monthly usage, you want this to be above 100%. That's perfectly fine. You're not going to pay extra for that. And what you want to do here is you want to look at your email monthly usage and see, okay, in this case, we have 5.5 million people that we can, emails that we can send in a certain billing period. And then you want to look back at your previous email usage and make sure that actually makes sense. So as you can see here, it's about right. For example, in this billing period, they sent 5.1, and in this one, they sent a little bit more. So you can kind of get the average of what you have been sending and make adjustments. You want it to be, see if this was like 1 million and they're paying for 5.5, that'd be a massive issue. And then email, we typically just do put the tracker at the bottom of the email content. You also want to make sure that your branded sending domain is set up. And then Klaviyo attribution, probably don't want to have any funny business. We typically just leave this as is. Default is 5 days open or clicked. You can do some other things too there if you want to. Again, not like we're not really on revenue share deals or anything like that, so it's not that big of a deal. We just want to keep things standard. And then SMS is just 1 day there. The only issue is if this is like 14 days or 30 days, that's where it's a problem. You don't want it to be like 30 days. That would be a little bit ridiculous. If someone 29 days ago clicks an email and then 29 days later they get it gets attributed to that email, like that's pretty wild. And then data, you want to turn anonymous visitor tracking on. And then you want to make sure that these consent pages, especially for 7-8 figure brands, you want them to be customized to the brand. It's going to take a little bit extra time, but again, it's worth it if everything is custom to you guys and you guys really stand out. But that's going to be when they hit manage preferences. That's going to be this here. When they subscribe, that's here. This is if you have the double opt-in on, this will be the email confirmation. If not, if you don't have double opt-in on, you don't need to do anything with this. And then unsubscribe, you can optimize this, make sure it looks up to date with your brand. You can also add a last chance offer. I'll talk about that later in the video, but if you want to say before someone unsubscribes, if you want to give them some sort of discount or some sort of offer, you could do it on this page. Nice little hack for bigger brands. All right, email deliverability. We want to look at an inbox placement test. My favorite service is called MailReach because you could literally look at 30 different inboxes here and see what providers they're inboxing and what providers you're not. So you can see with Google here, they're inboxing on all the professional ones. They also have a split between professional and like your everyday personal inboxes. So you can see which one it goes to primary, which one it goes to spam. You'll get a score that 77% of inboxes it's showing in the primary inbox. And then deliverability metrics. Generally, this is what we go for. Open rates 30% for campaigns. Flows should be a little bit better, roughly around 50%. But again, this is not exact. Click rates. Typically, if we're seeing above 1% for campaigns, that's great. It's gonna be tough. Like sometimes click rates are very, very tough, just given your brand and your industry. And then they should be a little bit better for flows. Should be around 4%. And then you can look at bounce rate, unsubscribe rate, and spam complaint rate. This is actually from Klaviyo. You can see the different rates here: needs attention, room for improvement, and then healthy. Backend checks. This is with MailReach here. You want to look at a couple different things, specifically SPF, DKIM, and DMARC, as well as MX records. Those should already be there, but you want to make sure that these are fully set up. And then email content. You want to make sure emails, according to Google and Outlook, are optimized for accessibility. So you want to use alt text in your images. You don't want images to be too big. You don't want them to be the entire email as an image, or you don't want them to be spanning the entire length. You also want to make sure to optimize the images using a site that does so. We use imagecompressor.com. You also want to make sure that the unsubscribe button is very clear and easy and really stands out when scanning the footer. A lot of times if it's like a white background, we'll actually make it blue. Like we'll make the unsubscribe button a completely different color so it looks like a link. You can make it red, make it stand out. So it's super easy to unsubscribe, because the alternative to unsubscribe is them sending you to the spam folder, which is definitely not what you want. And then when we're sending to the entire list, are we sending to the entire list or only certain segments? You want to look, make sure they're not actually sending to the entire list. That's not good. You want to look at least you want to send to at least just engaged segments. And you want to look at, is there potential to clean the list? And then you want to make sure they're not emailing campaigns to anybody who hasn't explicitly opted in. So you want to look at the segments there. And then you want to look at the cadence of the campaigns and make sure there's some sort of schedule. What I definitely don't recommend is sending, once on a random Tuesday, and then 2 weeks later on another Thursday, and then 2 days later on that next day. Like, it's very sporadic. So generally, if they're doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 emails per week, you want to have some sort of cadence where it's roughly spread out, just to kind of improve deliverability there and remind people, get them on a rhythm for opening your emails. All right, email capture and list growth, absolutely essential that we start with this before we get into any email flows or campaigns, just because if you don't have their data, you can't send them an email. So we need to talk about how to grow the list as efficiently as possible. Okay, so I want to look at the database size and quality, specifically engaged segments. I want to look at 30, 90, 120, 180 day engaged. See what the splits are between there. That's going to tell you how many people you can actually send emails to. And it's also going to tell you, also what you want to look at is, how many subscribers are actually receiving each email campaign. It's going to tell you kind of your core audience, who you're going to send emails to. And then how many people are within each of the following buckets: 0, 1, 2, 3 plus time purchasers. And what's the split between these groups? It's just going to tell you, do you need to send more emails about, like, telling more about the brand, or do you need to talk more to, loyal long-term customers? It's going to tell you, are there more window shoppers, people who are there just for giveaways, or is there actually a lot of customers on the list? It's going to be a massive difference in how you market to those two people. You also want to look at, again, how long people have been on the list. Is this kind of a new Gen Z TikTok type brand where it's just up and running? Or is this more of a loyal brand, a loyal fan base that's been with the brand for years and years and years? Very big difference. And it just depends. That, again, tells you how you should market to the database. All right, list growth. You want to look at where site traffic is primarily coming from. Paid ads, is it organic, is it SEO, is there not a lot of site traffic coming from new places? Is it mostly just a database of old leads essentially? And you also want to look at how much the main list has grown over the last 30, 90, and 365 days. That's going to tell you, how are things going? Is there room for improvement? Things like that. You also want to look at the quality of the people on there. A lot of times when doing things like giveaways and free this, free that, free products, it can negatively affect lead quality. So that's a lot of times what I see with different brands is they get people onto the list, but it's not the most high quality people. So it inflates your bill and it inflates your list size, but it doesn't actually increase sales. So that's why I'd recommend looking at your offer. How are people actually getting onto the list? And if it's like a 20% off discount, that's a lot better. That's going to motivate people to spend more, because 20% of $1,000 is more than 20% of $100. And so you want to positively reinforce that type of behavior. Double opt-in, we always want to turn that off, as I said before, unless it's for a specific reason. It's just going to lead to a certain percentage of people dropping off and not making it onto your list. Manage preferences and unsubscribe pages. You want those to be customized to the brand. And as I said here, is there a potential to add kind of a last chance before you unsubscribe offer? There's a brand called Crafted London that does this really well. So if you ever want to sign up for their list and check them out, it's pretty cool. Within the manage preferences page, what I like to do is, a lot of times if people are complaining about too many emails, you want to give them an option to only receive the most important updates, or just snooze emails for a few weeks. You can set up certain segments that whenever someone does click this button, they go into this segment or go to this list, and you only send your most important emails. You exclude them from your daily campaign sends or whatever you're doing. And then A lot of brands, especially that have multiple different products, if it makes sense to set up a quiz funnel, definitely I'd recommend it. Awesome. And then pop-up forms. We want to make sure there is a pop-up form in place for lead capture. And then we want to make sure consistently A/B testing sign-up forms to get the best conversion rate. Always want to be testing this out. We pretty much always have an A/B test going on with our sign-up forms because it's so high leverage. You want to make sure the pop-up offer is congruent with your best site-wide offer. So big mistake that I see with even 8-9-figure brands is that they'll have 35% off on their site and they'll give you the discount, but then their pop-up is like 15%. So it makes no sense to use the pop-up. And you want to look at, what's the percentage opt-in? Is it performing well? Is there potentially room for improvement? Of course, you want to look at, does the creative match the brand? With pop-ups, we don't typically go crazy on the creative. We've seen the most simple pop-ups, like literally a single color background that just matches the site, typically perform the best. You don't want a bunch of you don't want it to be a piece of art. You want it to actually convert. If you can do both, that's great, but we go for function over looks. Okay, and then you want to make sure that there's a legitimate incentive to sign up for email, and you want to make sure it's the best offer that you can give. Some brands, they don't want to give away their margins, which, okay, that's fine, whatever. But you can still offer something. You can still offer some sort of value, some sort of, exclusive, product or discount or, this or that. It doesn't have to be a discount necessarily. It could be some sort of lead magnet, but something to get them onto the list as much as you can. And if you're fine with lower conversion rates and not giving away your margin in a one-time deal, that's fine. It is what it is. And then SMS. Typically, I always recommend adding SMS. Even if you're not heavily leveraging it right now, you might as well at least build up your list. Costs you nothing extra to do so. So does the pop-up collect SMS specifically as a second step? And if you can, give an extra incentive to sign up for SMS. So if you have 15% for email, give 20% for SMS, and talk about the exclusive discounts that they're going to get with SMS and why it's an exclusive club and things like that to get them to sign up for SMS. Targeting in behavior settings, you want to make sure that these are without errors. You want to make sure that they're leveraging exit intent and doing so depending on your software. You want to make sure you're leveraging that on desktop and not on mobile, unless there's a mobile specific, like an intensive. You can do mobile exit intent, but in Klaviyo you can't. So you want to make sure that they're properly leveraging these two. You want to make sure that they're having a separate mobile pop-up versus a desktop pop-up, things like that. And then using a multi-step pop-up. Step 2 is generally for SMS, but it could be for birthday, it could be for more preferences, it could be for whatever you want. And then I always make sure that site visitors, once they sign up for the pop-up, don't put the discount on the pop-up, or else that email could go to spam. They could delete it afterwards. You always want to make sure that they actually have to open their email before getting the discount, or else it might just get lost by the wayside. And then they're never going to go looking for it, and you essentially lost that subscriber. Also, I definitely recommend adding a micro yes step on the first page of the pop-up. What that is just a simple yes/no question as the first step in the pop-up. So it goes micro yes question. It's like, hey, are you interested in 15% off? Yes, no. And then they click yes. Then you ask for their email. Pretty much in 99% of cases, that increases conversion rates. And then site footer form, you want to make sure, is there a footer opt-in form? Yes, hopefully so. You want to make sure the copy is compelling and it clearly states your intro offer and benefits of the email list. If you have a 20% off discount or whatever, you specifically want to add that to the site footer form. I see a lot of don't do this, and it's a huge mistake. Another thing we like to do is make it as big and noticeable as possible. A lot of times they just slap it in the corner and they say, sign up for our newsletter, and that's like not compelling at all. So no reason, no wonder why not a lot of people use the sign up form in the footer. And then checkout form, you just want to make sure that email sign up is prompted at checkout and sign up is pre-selected. You can do that if you're using Shopify. It's super easy to do that. And then you want to make sure that SMS sign up is prompted at checkout with the appropriate SMS opt-in messaging as well. All right, email specific content. So for both flows and campaigns, you want to make sure the content, the ideas overall, number one, and then the copy and design actually resonate in flows, campaigns, and sign-up forms. You want to make sure that there's consistency between the email content and landing pages in terms of the offers and design and things like that. Like I mentioned before, like if you have a 35% off site-wide discount, nobody's gonna look on your pop-up and be like, oh wow, 15% off. Like they don't want that if they can already get 35%. So you're killing your email signups. Emails should be an extension of the landing pages with the copy and design. So you're essentially emulating the website design in your emails, assuming that the brand actually wants to use the site. Sometimes if they're redoing your site or whatever, you'll have emails that look better or more improved than what the website does. That's totally fine, but you just want to make sure overall emails are on brand. You want to look at the click-through rate, and you want to make sure the emails are not solely focused on sell, promotions. You want to look at, is there an opportunity to educate, entertain, and overall just not be so salesy and product focused with the audience. If you guys have blog posts, if you guys have Instagram posts that you can turn into emails, things like that are going to build a relationship are great. Dynamic content blocks, you can actually put in customized product suggestions, so definitely use that. And then having a nice blend of plain text versus designed emails, highly recommend that. And then copy. You want to make sure the subject lines and preview texts are interesting, punchy, entice, and open. And then you want to make sure CTAs are short and clear, and there's one single main objective per email. I see a lot of brands, they'll just throw everything into one email, and it's just the tallest thing you've ever seen, and nobody's going to scroll through there, and they're kind of wasting their efforts. Instead, what you can do is have shorter emails. They break it up, and you really just want a headline, subheadline, and a CTA to tell everything that's in the email. You can elaborate in the body copy, but you don't want, no one's going to read through your massive long email in a majority of cases with e-com brands. There's definitely there's definitely people outside of that, but again, you want to go for one action. You want them to take one single action, not multiple different things. And then subject lines, preview text, you want them to be generally less than 60 characters, and you want the copy overall to be short and scannable. You can look at the sender name, make sure that it makes sense and it's optimized for opens. Recipient's name, that's a great variable to use. So definitely when you can include that in your emails and in your subject lines, that's typically where we use it the most. And then with the design, as I said before, optimizing the first fold is like the number one highest leverage thing you can do. So putting your offer, so headline and a subheadline, CTA button, and your image all within the first fold of the email. So if the person wants to, they can click the button, know what they're clicking, understand the offer, and never actually have to scroll. It's going to massively increase your click rates, and you're going to get a lot better conversions because of that. GIFs, we always like to use those. Images, you always want pretty much every single image, even if it doesn't have a button on it, you want that to be clickable and you want it to go to a link. Reason is, if someone misclicks, you still want them to go to the link. And if they don't, especially on like Gmail and things like that, they're going to open the image and then it like pops up the image in a full screen thing, and it's a big mess. Make sure there's no email clipping. There's a lot of different ways that an email could clip, but you don't want that happening. And then you want to make sure that it looks good on both desktop and mobile. Typically, if something looks good on mobile, it's going to look great on desktop, but the reverse is not true. So if something looks good on desktop, a lot of times it's way too small and you cannot read it at all on mobile. And then testing, with A/B tests, you want to make sure to optimize click, open, and place order rates. Those are the big three metrics there. And then you want to make sure specifically in flows, you want to look at those. And then you want to make sure, again, we're looking at hypotheses and learnings are being tracked. All right, with the flows. So here are the core flows that we set up. Typically, we're building majority of these out for our clients. So you have the SMS and email welcome series. You can kind of see the name of the flow and the number of messages. And then abandon checkout and abandon cart. You definitely want to have both of them there. Browse and site abandonment. Definitely want to have both of these as well. Two different triggers here. And then post-purchase, we include customer thank you, upsell, cross-sell, and product review emails all into this post-purchase flow. So it's one big flow that they get after they make a purchase. But you could have upsell, cross-sell, product review. Those could be in separate email flows within Klaviyo if you want to. If not, this is what we prefer to keep things simple. Replenishment reminder, definitely a must-have for subscription products. Customer win back for majority of brands, I would definitely recommend this. Back in stock, this works great if you have a ton of SKUs and or they frequently go out of stock. This is for specific brands only. And then VIP customers and birthday gift, these are not going to be massive revenue drivers, but they can definitely help. But we put them at the bottom here. They're still nice to have, but they're not going to be nearly as important as your abandonment flows and your post-purchase flow. All right, so you want to look at, is there an opportunity to add more and customize these to the brand more? A lot of times brands will have these flows set up, but they haven't been updated in years and they're not up to date. They're not, showing your brand off as much as they could. You want to look at the entire stage, every stage of the customer journey. That's what the great thing about flows is that they perfectly align to different stages of the customer journey and they move people along systematically. You want to make sure all the flow triggers are working. There's no flow filter errors. Very common to have these. A lot of times people might be getting too many emails, two emails at the same time. You want to make sure the timing especially is correct. For example, you don't want people getting a replenishment reminder email at the same time as something else like your post-purchase. That's why we put everything all into one post-purchase flow so we can clearly see that nothing's going to overlap. But a lot of times a customer might be getting a product review email before they've actually gotten the product, or they might be getting an upsell and a cross-sell on the same day. And overall, there's a lot of wires that could get crossed. And then you want to make sure conditional splits, you're doing those correctly within your flows. And then copy and design, anytime that we have a big site-wide promotion like Black Friday, Cyber Monday, or a big site-wide sale, biggest sales of the year, you want to update the copy within your flows. Because if you're giving 25% off for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and then they get an email for 15% off, it makes no sense. Why would they ever choose 15% off versus 25%? So you want to update them, your most important flows for Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And then what we like to do is include dynamic, so unique discount codes or static codes that look like they're unique or dynamic. Reason is we don't want to just use something like welcome 20 because nobody thinks that discount code is actually going to expire. So you have no legitimate urgency or scarcity. And then split testing flows, you want to make sure to, as I said before, pick winners. Also turning off smart sending or skip recently emailed profiles in the flows. You always want to turn that off unless there's a very specific reason to turn it on. Reason is you're going to get a lot of people in your email flows that are going to get skipped. And I highly recommend always turning this off. And then using custom product recommendation blocks based on what the customer has viewed and purchased and things like that. Always a great way to add personalization. All right, email and SMS campaigns. We want to look at the campaign volume over the last 30, 90, and 365 days. We look at all these different time frames because, maybe last month was November and we sent a ton of email campaigns, but it's not representative of an entire year. So you want to see when are they sending the most, when are they sending the least, is this consistent? Is there room to improve? Average revenue per campaign in the last 30, 90, and 365 days. This is gonna allow you to project, if you're averaging $2,000 per campaign, if we send, 4 more campaigns during one monthly period, that's an extra $8,000 in monthly revenue. So that's why you can kind of do the math and understand how much are we bringing in per campaign. And if we increase volume, if they're only sending 1 per week, what if we sent 2 per week? That's not going to directly necessarily 2x revenue. It could. It's not going to, maybe is going to 1.5 or 1.8x, but still you can kind of estimate. You definitely need a campaign calendar in place. A lot of brands are just going to be kind of willy-nilly, just sending out email campaigns, and they don't have a plan in advance. For us, typically we're scheduling things out 1 to 2 months in advance, so you know exactly which emails are coming up, and if you need to, you can send out an email kind of on the fly. But again, you want to have things planned out, and you want to have a clear campaign cadence, as I talked about. You want to make sure you're sending to a variety of different segments, and you're actually sending specific emails to specific segments. You want to look at exclusions and make sure you're excluding the right people. You want to make sure the emails have a good mix of content, product focus, storytelling, things like that. And you want to make sure we're sending to enough subscribers. If you're getting like 80% open rates for, if you're sending to the 60-day engaged and you're getting like 80% open rates, you can bump that up. So you can maybe send to 120 or 180-day engaged and bring that open rate down, but send to more people. Generally, we like to get around 30 to 40% open rates. That's where kind of that Goldilocks sweet zone is. And then you want to make sure you're sending at the optimal send time. You can do that in Klaviyo. Just make sure you gather that data, and you can see when are your subscribers opening, clicking, and placing orders during the day. All right, so that was it. If you're running a direct consumer e-commerce brand doing 6 or 7 figures per month, and you want us to go through with this audit for you for free and potentially add 50 to 200K to your monthly revenue, or we give you a refund in 90 days, you have 2 different options. You can go check out our website. That's zhs-ecom.com and book a call there, or you can go ahead and send an email to my email personally, read and respond. That's zach@zhsecom.com for more information. Hope you got a ton of value out of this video and appreciate your time.